Welcome back, historians. What message did Muhammad preach to the people of Arabia? Arab life. In the 600s, people on the Arabian Peninsula built an empire in Southwest Asia. The empire was based on the religion of Islam. The land in Arabia is mostly desert. It also has dry, sandy plains. It is very hot. The temperatures in summer can rise above 122 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. The desert had no cities and few towns. The very hot weather and the dry, sandy land made it difficult to live in the desert. The towns that existed were built around water. In the desert, water can be found only at an oasis. An oasis is a spring or water hole. A group of Arab people called Bedouin, however, learned to live in the difficult environment. They were nomads, or people who traveled from place to place. The Bedouin rode camels from oasis to feed and water their herds of camels, goats, and sheep. To survive the harsh climate, the Bedouin formed tribes or groups. The leader of a tribe was called a sheikh. Tribes fought over land and water. Some tribes settled around oases and set up villages and towns. The people there farmed, raised animals, and traded goods. They did not travel like the Bedouin did. Some merchants carried goods across the desert. Many traveled in caravans, or groups of merchants and animals. Such groups protected the merchants from attacks by thieves. An important trade town was Mecca. It was also an important religious center. The Kaaba, a religious building, was and still is in Mecca. The Kaaba was surrounded by statues of Arabian gods and goddesses. The most important god was Allah. The Arabs believed Allah was the creator of the world. They believed a stone inside the Kaaba came from heaven. Muhammad and his message. Muhammad was born in Mecca in AD 570. Both his parents died. He grew up in his grandfather's house and became a successful merchant. Muhammad was troubled by the way of life in Mecca, especially by the lifestyles of Mecca's wealthy citizens. He saw greed, dishonesty, and neglect of the poor. People did not care about family life. Muhammad prayed about this. In AD 610, according to tradition, he was called by God to preach Islam. The word Islam means to surrender to the will of Allah. Muhammad preached that there was only one God, Allah. The statues of the gods and goddesses around the Kaaba in Mecca should be destroyed. He also taught that Allah valued people's good deeds instead of their wealth. He said that rich people should share their wealth with the poor. Many people started following Muhammad, especially the poor. Rich merchants and leaders of the existing religions did not accept Muhammad's teachings. They believed Muhammad was trying to take away their power. In AD 622, Muhammad and his followers believed they were in danger from these enemies. They left Mecca and went to Yathrib. The people of Yathrib accepted Muhammad as a prophet of God. They changed the name of the town to Medina, which means the city of the prophet. In Medina, Muhammad was a political leader and a religious leader. Muhammad used government power to support Islam. He formed an army. With his army, he took over Mecca and made it a holy city of Islam. Beliefs and practices of Islam. Islam shares some beliefs with Christianity and Judaism. For example, all three religions believe that there is only one God. They believe that God is all-powerful and created the universe. Each religion has a holy book. The holy book of Islam is the Quran. Muslims believe the Quran is the written word of God. The Quran describes events that are important to Islam. The Quran also includes teachings and instructions. Islam teaches people to worship Allah in 5 ways. They are called the 5 pillars of Islam. A pillar is a basic belief. The 5 pillars include belief, prayer, charity, giving to the poor, and fasting. Fasting means to eat very little or no food. The 5th pillar is pilgrimage. Muslims are encouraged to travel to the holy city of Mecca to see the Kaaba. To guide believers, Islam also has a set of laws called the Sharia. Sharia applies the teachings of the Quran to family, business, and government. The Sharia says Muslims may not gamble or eat pork. Founding an empire. Muhammad died in 632. He left no directions about choosing the leader who should come after him. A group of Muslim leaders selected a new kind of leader. They called this leader the Caliph, or the successor. The Caliph was the successor to Muhammad. The first 4 caliphs were relatives or friends of Muhammad. Their goal was to protect and to spread Islam. Their armies conquered many lands beyond the Arabian Peninsula. They conquered lands in Southwest Asia and Africa. After the first 4 caliphs, a new group of caliphs ruled. They were called the Umayyads. They ruled the empire from the city of Damascus in Syria. Their goal also was to spread Islam. Their armies expanded further into Asia and Africa. They also conquered Spain in Europe in the 700s. The Umayyads brought their religion, customs, and traditions to Spain. Spanish Muslims built centers of Islamic government and culture. Jewish, Christian, and Muslim scholars studied and worked together. The Muslims were good warriors and fought well in battle. They believed they had a duty to spread Islam. The people of other empires had sometimes been forced to follow the religion of their leaders. The Muslims let the people they conquered practice their own religions. Muslim merchants also spread Islamic faith and culture. The merchants built trading posts in the conquered lands, such as Southeast Asia. Today, in Southeast Asia, the country of Indonesia has more Muslims than any country in the world. Muslims spread Islam through conquest, trade, and teaching. Division and growth. There were groups in Islam that argued about who had the right to be caliph. Muslims divided into 2 groups over the issue. The Shia believed only people descended from Muhammad's son-in-law, Ali, should be caliphs. The Sunni, a larger group than the Shia, disagreed. They did not think caliphs had to be related to Muhammad. Today the 2 groups are still divided over this question. They do both agree, however, on the basic beliefs of Islam. Around 750, the Shia Muslims rebelled and took over the rule from the Umayyad caliphs. The new caliphs were called Abbasids. The Abbasid caliphs focused on improving trade and culture. They built the city of Baghdad. It became the new capital of the Arab Empire. All the trade routes passed through Baghdad. It was a beautiful and wealthy city. In 1055, Baghdad was seized by people called the Seljuk Turks. They came from Central Asia and invaded the Arab Empire. The Seljuk Turks and Abbasids ruled together. The leader of the Turks was called a sultan. The sultan controlled the military and the government. The Abbasid caliphs managed religious matters. They ruled for 200 years this way. In 1258, people from Central Asia, called Mongols, quickly moved into the empire. The Mongols burned Baghdad and killed thousands of people. The Arab Empire was over. 3 Muslim empires. After the Arab Empire ended in 1258, other Muslim groups built their own empires. The Ottomans were based in what is now the country of Turkey. They built the largest Islamic empire. It lasted until the early 1900s. The Ottomans conquered much of the Byzantine Empire and expanded further into Europe, Southwest Asia, and North Africa. Rulers of the Ottoman Empire were also called sultans. The most famous Ottoman sultan was Suleiman I. He ruled during the 1500s. He was called the lawgiver because he organized Ottoman laws. Suleiman also built schools and mosques throughout the empire. The Ottoman Empire was very large. Islam was the official religion of the empire. Muslims had special privileges. Non-Muslims had to follow different laws. They had to pay a special tax to practice their own religion. Persia was one land the Ottomans could not conquer. It was ruled by the Safavids from the 1500s to the 1700s. The Safavids were Shia and bitter enemies of the Ottomans, who were Sunni. During the Safavid rule, Persian became the language of trade and culture. Today in Pakistan people speak Urdu. This language is partly based on Persian. The Third Muslim Empire was in India. In the 1500s, the Mughals conquered India. Under a Mughal emperor named Akbar, non-Muslims were treated fairly. Later Mughal rulers treated Hindus and Sikhs cruelly. The religion of Sikhism started in the 1500s. The Sikhs believe in one God and rely on one holy book called the Adi Granth. Today, Sikhism is the 5th largest religion in the world. Daily life and trade. From 700 to the 1400s, Muslims controlled trade in much of Asia and Africa. Muslim merchants spread Islam and the Arabic language. Muslim merchants developed a money system that made trading easier. They also kept detailed records. This led to the development of banking. As trade increased, cities grew. Muslim cities always had mosques. People worshipped in the mosques. Schools and courts were located in the mosques. The mosques were learning centers. Muslim cities also had bazaars. A bazaar is a marketplace. It is a place in a city or town where shops are located and goods are sold. Many Muslim people also lived in villages and farmed the land. Since the land was so dry, they developed irrigation. Irrigation is a system to bring water to dry land so crops will grow. The farms were owned by wealthy landowners. The most powerful people were government leaders, landowners, and wealthy merchants. Craftspeople, or artisans, farmers, and workers had little power. Women managed families and households. Women could own property, invest in trade, and inherit wealth. As in other societies, Muslim society had slavery. Enslaved people did have some rights under Islamic law. They could buy their freedom. Mothers could not be separated from their young children. Muslim contributions. The Arabic language was the common language throughout the Islamic world. That helped promote trade and the exchange of ideas. Muslim scholars and doctors made many contributions in science, mathematics, medicine, literature, art, and architecture. Many of these contributions are still used today. Muslim scholars in Spain translated many ancient Greek works into Arabic. Later, the Arabic versions were translated into Latin. That is when Europeans learned about ancient Greek ideas. In science, Muslims improved the Greek astrolabe. Sailors used this tool to study the stars and chart their location. Muslims used the improved astrolabe to measure the distance around the Earth. By studying the skies, they also proved that the moon affects the Earth's ocean tides. Muslim scientists began what we know today as the study of chemistry. They studied metals. A Muslim chemist, al-Razi, identified chemical substances. In mathematics, Muslim scholars invented algebra. They also used the Hindu number symbols to develop a number system called Arabic numerals. We use Arabic numerals today as our numbering system. In the field of medicine, Muslim doctors discovered that blood moves to and from the heart. They learned to diagnose diseases and explained how diseases spread from one person to another person. Muslims were the first to establish medical schools for training and testing doctors. They also built clinics where the sick could go for medicine. Muslims made major contributions in literature, the arts, and architecture. The Quran was the first and the most important piece of Arabic writing. A well-known work of literature is the Arabian Nights. The Muslim poet Omar Khayyam wrote the Rubaiyat. It is widely read today. Islamic art included detailed designs of flowers, leaves, stars, and fancy lettering, but images of people and animals were forbidden. Muslim leaders believed that images of living things encouraged idol worship. They felt that idol worship meant that people were being unfaithful to Allah. Because of this, Islamic art does not show images of people. Many examples of Muslim architecture still stand today. Throughout the world, mosques have a minaret, or tower. From this tower, an announcer calls Muslims to prayer 5 times a day. Other Muslim buildings that still stand today include the Taj Mahal, a beautiful building in India that was built in the 1600s.